But
So I'm pretty sure I witnessed a marriage fall apart at one
oh
point.
god,
Like there was an argument going on, like they were just letting the world know. I don't know if this was staged or not. It probably was staged, but there was just an argument going on between two players going back and forth. And I'm just like sitting there going like, guys, is RuneScape really the place for this to go on? And they both like legit like blew up, like completely just ended everything. And then they just walked off into the distance. And I'm like, I'm sitting here just thinking like, did that really happen or were they filming a skit? Like,
I think it would have been funnier if the one person logged off. So then you're like, oh no, like what happened? Did they throw the other computer on the floor or something? Or
yeah, there was that one was funny. I remember this one guy was like having like the worst day ever, and he was just like unloading everything into like the mining area, but we were all mining coal or something. And I'm just like, bro, are you okay? And he's like, just go. Hey guys, I'm Bill, a one-time Instagram vlogger and now a podcaster.
And I'm Alex, the chaotic neutral.
And together we are the Gaming and Collecting Podcast,
a brother-sister duo
that talks about gaming.
And also anime.
And don't forget the collecting, or sometimes.
Ah, forget it. We're just a nostalgia podcast at this point.
But anyways, guys, thanks for joining us as we discuss the games that shaped us. So, normally I'd say how you been, but Alex is still away at the moment, so like I've been doing with the previous few episodes, I'm actually going to have guests fill in just for the time being. So for this episode, I actually have Shnickerman from both YouTube and the Gaming with Passion podcast. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing pretty well. What about yourself?
Doing pretty good. We had a long weekend this weekend, so I spent a lot of time working on the house, doing just catching up on stuff.
Yeah, being a homeowner is not always fun, but makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, it's worth it in the long run, but the start is very rough.
Yeah.
We took Alex's cat to the groomer this morning, and we just kind of hung out, and then I've been chilling the rest of the day, kind of just working on a few projects here and there, stuff like that.
Cool.
Maybe I'll actually play video games at some point down the line.
That's me lately, is like trying to fit in when I can. So
yeah, I've been sleeping on my couch a lot lately because I'm that tired. But other thing though, everything else going pretty well.
Yeah, I got a new boss at work, so I'm working through that change in dynamic. It's never fun, but hopefully it works out. And right before this, my wife and I were playing some Mortal Kombat. I forget which one. It was the one on 360. I think it's like technically Mortal Kombat 9 or something.
Oh, MK9, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So that was cool.
I still think that has like the best story mode in a fighting game like ever.
Yeah, I think I slept on a lot of the Mortal Kombat games. I like fighters a lot. I'm more of a Street Fighter guy, but I mean, the visuals are great. The stories are wacky, but still kind of interesting. So
yeah, it's got a charm to it that like Japanese fighters just don't have. There's just something funny about Mortal Kombat's brutality and just weird sense of humor.
For sure.
Yeah, but other than that, though, it's been pretty good. So for this episode, we're actually going to be jumping into another RuneScape talk episode, where the previous episodes we had kind of like we talked about me and Alex's time in the past. We had Alex learning how to do quests, Alex learning that Alex hates to do quests, and that she doesn't know how archery works. We also had Nave from the Gaming Together podcast on last time talk about his memories, and I was thinking for future RuneScape talk episodes, we'd bring on other people in the podcasting community or YouTube community that have also been into RuneScape back in the day. And one of the people I've known the longest that have done that is actually Shnickerman here. And because I know I think we actually started talking over RuneScape like way back in the day.
Yeah, I think I messaged you on Instagram about something you had posted or something. But yeah, I mean, I've been playing RuneScape at least on and off for, I don't even know. I have to calculate. I played it in middle school. So it's been a long time. It's probably like approaching, I don't know, 15 years, 20, I don't know. I have no
It, it,
clue, but it's been a long time.
it really has, like, because I always remembered I got into it around 2006, like right when the game was probably at its peak.
Yeah.
And I remember like it was like a couple years later is when all like the weird changes and stuff happened and the game started becoming like the fan base was like ripping itself apart for a long time there.
Still is.
Well, that's why there's two separate versions of the game now, and
Yeah.
both sides of the fan base hate each other. It's weird how fandoms are like that sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I guess like me, you started with RuneScape 2 then.
Yes, correct.
What is now known as old school RuneScape.
Yeah.
And God, I always like to say like RuneScape is kind of like it's like that old friend that like every now and then you'll come out of contact with, but then like you'll meet up again every couple of years and it's just like it's a great time and then you just kind of go your separate ways again for a while.
Yeah, it's been like almost exactly my experience. Maybe not every year I'll play, but there's always like periods of a few months where I'll just play it pretty hardcore, get bored of it, drop it, and then like, they'll suck me back in with some kind of email about a new skill or, whatever it happens to be. Maybe I talk to somebody about it and then I get pulled back in again. So
yeah, like I always remember like the big turning point for me was actually during COVID. I had like nothing else to do, so I just kind of got back into RuneScape during my time when I wasn't at work, and that was when I like literally maxed out every skill because I was so bored. And it's amazing how trivial the game becomes once you're like maxed out on everything.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those games. I think people with World of Warcraft had the same problem. Like, you kind of want to get to the end of the game because supposedly it's more fun, but the whole fun in the game is kind of getting there, at least in my opinion. So,
yeah. Because it's funny, like I maxed myself on all my stats, and then I just went and did all these quests that I just never did, and I'm like, wow, these are trivial with like max stats. Like I remember being stuck on Underground Pass for years, and then I maxed everything out, and I did it in literally one go, and I was like, wow, this was not nearly as challenging as I thought it was.
Yeah, questing is interesting too because, the intuitive thing to do is just do the quest because you get experience. But I was kind of the same. I almost never touched quests. When I was first playing, I was free to play for like a few years because I wasn't even like old enough to like have a credit card to pay for it or whatever. So I pretty much did like all the free to play quests at the time, which there was many less. I don't know. There was maybe like 12 or something. I can't remember, but there was less than 20, I think, free to play quests. And that made sense. And then when I finally became a member and started doing everything, I just wanted the skill. Like I never did any quests. So I would talk with people later on and they'd be like, oh yeah, you need this quest. And I was like, I have like 10 quest points. No, I don't know. It wasn't that bad. But so it's really funny because there's actually a ton of experience in quests. So one day I'll learn and I'll actually just quest instead of leveling. But
I still remember like back in so during the free player days, because I'm pretty sure every RuneScape player went through that period of just being a free player for a long time. And it was honestly a much simpler time back then because
for sure
there was so many people playing the game, and no matter where you went, you'd always see other players around, and like you'd see like those. Do you remember like members players would jump into the free play worlds and just like chill with like their membership like gear?
Yeah, it was just the subtle flex. It was like, I don't know, dude. There's something about it. It's a whole ecosystem. But yeah, the people would just show up, and then I remember like running up to those people and being like, "Dude, what's that armor?" And they'd be like, "Dragon," and then just like walk away. You know what I mean? Or they would like try to trade you, and then like show you the item. Remember when people used to do that? You'd like try to buy or sell something. They'd be like, "Okay, here you go. Like here's 1,000,000 gold or something," and then you're like, "Click, click, 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 click," and they'd be like, "Nope, they removed it," and you're like, "Darn."
Yep.
Yeah.
I always loved like, so those guys were like, I thought like they were just like a thing that I sort of came upon, but then I discovered really fast that like everybody had the same story about like the members who would, it was usually like Lumbridge Square.
Yeah.
And either Lumbridge Square or Varrock Center, they would just stand there and do nothing and just kind of like subtly like gloat to the free players, like, look at all this cool stuff I've got that you can't get, but I'm gonna stand here anyways.
Yeah, art replicates life. And what do people do in real life? They get a big house, they get a nice car, and then they drive it around for everyone to see, right? So it's not that different, I guess. It's just funny that, like, I mean, at the time, membership was probably like $4.99 or something, right? So it's like
Yeah,
it didn't really show anything, to be honest, but
it
for
was a
me, it
much
did.
it was a much different time. Like I
Yeah.
still remember getting membership by calling on the phone. Like if for the people that remember, that used to be a way to pay for things. You'd have to dial this number and then they'd give you like this like code and you'd have to like give your credit card information via the phone.
Jesus.
Yeah, that was a time. All because they wouldn't accept American Express at the time. So it was like, yeah, we had to do some
Mm.
weird roundabout way just to get membership.
Yeah, it was crazy. No, I just remember at the time, like, yeah, my parents were just like didn't want to give the credit card to, because it was that age of like, I can't give my credit card to the internet because who knows what's gonna happen. And to be honest, I mean, that was good to be safe at that point because the
Mhm.
internet didn't have nearly as much security. But yeah, for like young age me, it was like, my friends have membership. What about me? It's not fair. And I remember being so angry. It was funny.
Yeah, because I remember I was the last of my friend group to get
Yeah.
membership, and they were like so far ahead, and I was like, "Well, this sucks." And of course, they were like dicks about it for no reason because, of
Yeah.
course, children, just children.
I had
Um,
something. Well, let me just say one thing. I had
yeah, go
something
for it.
for a while too, where my parents were like regulating even how much time I could be on the internet. So like I got membership and I was like, yes. And then they were like, yeah, 1 hour per day. And I was like, okay. But I was like, in RuneScape, that's nothing. I was like, I remember I would like try to like sell things and you literally just have to sit there and be like selling this, selling this, selling this, selling this. And maybe after like 40 minutes in a populated area, somebody would buy it from you. So
I,
then
I
I'd be
st- I
like,
remember, I remember
yeah.
the days of hanging out at a marketplace and be like selling coal, selling
Yeah.
coal.
No, that was pretty much me too. Cole was such a good one. And it was just like, yeah, it was insane, but
You do
fun
you
stuff.
remember? Do you remember fighting over a coal rock?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that was the thing. Like I did that for a while, and then I don't know if you ever did it when you became a member. You do like the flax seed into bowstrings. Did you ever do that?
That
I
was a
did
good
that
classic.
so much. Like I probably spent like an entire day of my life doing that.
I
So
always remember
fun.
like kids don't the younger kids playing now don't realize this because nowadays like anybody can mine a coal rock and like literally like 12 people can mine the same rock.
Yeah.
Back in the day you could only one person could mine a rock at a time, so like you'd have like these like 90 level 99 miners and they'd just kind of like hang out at the rocks, and like because they were higher level they'd always get in before you could, so
Right.
they'd be you'd have to like world hop to find a world with less players just to mine a rock for like an hour.
And it's an interesting perspective too, because at the time when I was younger, I didn't understand why they would do that. It's like, wow, they can mine like mithril. Why are they mining coal? And it's like because they can get it so quick and it
Mhm.
sells. You know what I mean? So it's like I said, I had a whole video about it on my YouTube channel, but like the economics of RuneScape is super interesting. And as RuneScape has evolved, I think it's really cool how the economics of everything has evolved as well.
Like when they literally added the stock market to the game, and like that basically changed the meta of the entire game for like years to come. Like basically it the reason why like say like mining coal and like getting the flax to make bowstring became so like effective was like the higher level players didn't want to bother to do it to get like their quest needs and other things, so they just
Mhm.
rely on all these lower level players who were desperate for money to go do it
Yeah.
for them.
It's like the real world. It's like, does the CEO of your company do the trivial tasks? No, they pay somebody low wages to do that for you, so they don't have to do it, right?
You see,
So
parents didn't get it. RuneScape was
no,
a learning experience.
it was. It's like, I mean, I still remember to this day. I was in science class in, it must have been sixth grade. So that's probably the year I started playing when I was in sixth grade. I have to do the math. Um, and we were had like in science we were learning about like rocks and stuff, and then like my teacher was like, so how do you make iron, or like how do you make steel and all that stuff, and I knew all of it, and then everyone like around me was like, how do you know that? I was like, oh, just RuneScape. And they're like, what's that? And I'm like, don't worry about it. But I know. So it's really interesting too. You learn a lot of stuff.
Did you God, there was like so many random stories. So oh, damn, I lost it. I'll think of it in a minute. But so speaking of that, like, was your school like was pretty much everyone open to RuneScape, or was there like this hush hush like thing going on at the time?
So I'll say like I said, middle school was definitely like the prime time I was playing, and that's when I kind of started. And I remember the way I actually heard about it, like my friend Matt in middle school was like, oh yeah, I was playing, like, remember how they had all those websites back in the day that had like a million like Java games on it and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It was probably like Addicting Games or something. And he's like,
Yep.
yeah, I was on Addicting Games. And I was like, oh yeah, those games are kind of boring. And he's like, no, try RuneScape. And I was like, okay. And I was expecting it to be like, yeah, like a little flash game or whatever. And then I started playing it. And so all my like lunch table, I don't know if you, I feel like it's like the cliche thing at school. Like you have like your lunch table and you have like 6 people and we all played. But in varying degrees. Like one kid had membership from like day one. His mom played RuneScape and she was like super high level. It was really weird. And so he used her account or something, and then the rest of us were just like free to play dudes. But yeah, it was pretty fun. So I think that's what kind of kept me in it. I think if I didn't have those initial friends going in, I wouldn't have probably played it very much.
I always remember like some of the quote unquote cool kids acting like, oh, we don't play RuneScape. And I'm just sitting there going like, you totally play RuneScape. What are we talking about? Everybody played RuneScape for a while there.
Yeah, do you think it was like a lot of people? Because like in my school, it was probably like 10 people. Like I don't think it was more than that.
See,
it was not that much.
I always picked up on it because we would be talking about something and it would be like some obscure thing from the game. Like it wouldn't even mention RuneScape. And they would like the quote unquote cool people would all of a sudden know exactly what we were talking about just to diss us. And I always remember being like, that's funny how you know about this really obscure fact about RuneScape out of nowhere. That's fun.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. The nerds or the cool kids playing RuneScape.
See, I was never like that embarrassed about playing it. I was always kind of like, it's a computer game. Who cares that much? My friend group at the time, I don't talk to any of them anymore, but they were wicked self-conscious about this. Like they wouldn't even call it RuneScape in school. I joked about this earlier, but they referred to it as the game really dramatically. And
the game.
this is before the game meme showed up, but I would like anytime they were talking about it, I would like be super dramatic and obnoxious about it just to annoy them because I'm like, you guys sound even like more cliche doing this shit than just saying you play RuneScape.
Yeah, it's a total like middle school, high school thing that trying to hide like what you're interested in, even though if you showed it, you could actually get more friends. But being
it's
outcast or whatever.
It's like being an anime fan back in the day. It's like you knew everybody watched anime, but like only certain people were like anime fans.
Yeah, thank God for Dragon Ball Z bringing it kind of more into popularity because yeah,
I didn't have that. Like I was the Inuyasha fan. Trying to convince the cool kids about that one wasn't the easiest.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it too, I feel like maybe Naruto was more like at least when I was in high school, that was like the one. That was what got everybody into it. I felt like
that was more our that was like our era because like nowadays it's all like My Hero Academia and Demon Slayer and whatever the big ones are now.
Yeah, it's all connected at the end.
Yeah. Oh, I remembered my what I was going to ask. So going back to like school, did you have your tricks to get around the school firewalls or did you guys not have firewalls?
See, this is the interesting thing because I'm trying to remember. So when I was in middle school, I think initially it wasn't blocked at all. So I remember having study halls. And I think actually, I think the real story was I started playing it because I found it on one of those websites and I played a little bit. I didn't even get out of the tutorial. Like I was just like, I don't understand how to play this. And then in the study hall, a kid was playing it and I was like, what is that? And he's like, RuneScape. And I was like, oh, I played that, but that looks way cooler than what I remember. So we could definitely play in study hall, but I think it depended on like who the teacher was too. Some teachers would be like, no, you can't play games or something like that. And then I don't know about your school, but there was like all these like random websites that would get around the firewall, because like eventually they would just block all the gaming websites, and then they were like be these ones was like cool math for kids, and websites like that sometimes like had links to it and stuff so you could play.
So we initially didn't have any firewall, and then it became problematic at school because everyone would just play RuneScape all the time. So of course they immediately basically blocked it on every computer. That's when we figured out the workarounds. And my favorite personally was the one I discovered completely by accident. I didn't even know this could work. But do you remember Google Earth? Well, I mean, everyone knows.
Oh,
Google
yeah.
So Google Earth had a built-in browser for whatever reason. And for some reason, that browser was not connected at all to the firewall. So
Wow.
I was like, out of curiosity, just like RuneScape. And it's like RuneScape all of a sudden booted up. I was like, So it was pretty funny too, because like you got this little tiny window with like the earth just chilling in the back, and then you're playing RuneScape, and I'm like, this is absurd, but I kind of like it at the same time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it like, was it way slower because it was using like the resources of the computer to like run Google Earth, or
It wasn't the most ideal way to play
Yeah.
RuneScape, I'll say that. But when you're a kid in school, you just don't care that
no,
much.
you don't care. It's good enough.
I just remember like the stupidity of that. Like, I remember like you could get through it via. So they only had the firewalls like through like Internet Explorer at first, and they hadn't realized that other browsers exist, I guess, at the time. So like you could boot up Firefox and it would work. Or
That's
Opera,
so crazy.
believe.
That yeah, I mean, it was just a different time, right? I think like the tech people at high schools and middle schools were just not equipped enough to know what to do. So yeah.
I mean, nowadays you just play it on your phone. Like,
Yeah, I mean, that's something that as a kid I dreamed of. Like so I guess going back to my story, like I said, I never really had access to my computer that much, so I couldn't play RuneScape that much. So I was always trying to come up with ways that you could play in another way. Like, do you remember like the Sidekick phones?
Yep.
The ones that like flipped up and had the keyboard. So my brother's friend had one of those, and I was like, oh, that'd be so cool if you could play it. But unfortunately, like you couldn't play it like that. So I was always trying to think if there was some like mobile way I could play it. And then when the mobile version came out, way too late in my opinion. Whatever, it just came out. I don't know what that in 2015 or
so 2015 is when Old School came out, and then
yeah,
RS3 didn't get a mobile version until like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, like 2018 maybe. It was a while, but I mean, even Old School I would have been able to deal with. And it's crazy. I mean, the games are not that resource intensive, so it makes sense. But man, that would have made a killing back in the day. They could have even charged for that, and I would have paid for it, you know?
That was like the mythical thing we used to always like talk about. Like you'd have like the rumors about you can play it on your phone, and it's like, no, you can't. But nowadays you can. And it's like,
yeah. And I remember too, I was thinking the same thing with the PSP. Like that was around the time the PSP came out. One of my friends got it, and I was like, can you play RuneScape on it? He's like, no, it doesn't work. And I'm like, damn, like that would have been so good, you know?
I tried playing RuneScape on the Wii once. It didn't work.
Yeah, unfortunately not, but
yeah. So I'm trying to think. So you played all through the transition into RuneScape 3, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, so from what I remember, and I have to make a timeline. I think it would be fun to make a video about the timeline of RuneScape a little bit, but so from my recollection, it was 2011 when they switched over, right? Because I was a college freshman. I remember that. And that was when they started like RuneScape 3 or whatever. And I definitely didn't like it for a while. And I'll say to this day, when I play RuneScape 3, I'd use like the legacy combat and everything. Just because, I don't know, I kind of like having elements of RuneScape 2, but all the new skills and features of RuneScape 3. So I play really simplistic. I'm not like competitive or anything with it. So
yeah, like I just do quests and stuff. I'm not like, I don't PvP because like I'm too like lame. Like I'll go out there and get killed and it'll ruin my day. So
even have you tried to like what do they call those, like all those like really powerful like monsters and stuff that can drop like the crazy items and stuff?
I see them every now and then. I'm always like, usually when I see them, there's nobody around also fighting. So I'm like, I don't want to be the one guy over here.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess there's a lot of like RuneScape gold into it and stuff. So I guess one tangent. I had a friend that remember when you mentioned like the Grand Exchange, like changing everything. One of my friends a few years ago, I learned he like literally like almost like longs and shorts like RuneScape items, like the stock market. Like he'll invest in a bunch of items that he thinks is going to go up because the new skills coming out or whatever. And I'm just like, man, people are taking this too seriously. But at the same time, I mean, good for them. And the same guy, he goes really hard into like, yeah, like farming certain like bosses a million times to get good drops and make money. But that's not really my scene. I tried a few and I got destroyed because I like forgot the item that you need to protect yourself from that specific boss or whatever. And then I was just too sad. So
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff. I remember like when I got around after I maxed out my character, I just kind of went through this period of like benevolence where I was just kind of like going around through like well, actually, I guess it's Birthright now is where you start the game. It's weird how they changed that, but
yeah.
I would hang out there and I'd just like smith like steel and like mithril like swords and armor and stuff, and I'd just give it away to like new players and be like, here you go, have fun.
You're like the RuneScape's good Samaritan. You're just like free mithril for everybody. Woo!
Well, I'd have like daily challenges where it'd be like smith like 5 like pieces of armor, and I'd be like, okay. So I just make a full set of mithril, and I'd see some like lower like level player wearing steel walk by, and I'd be like, here, have an upgrade on the house. I don't need it.
No, that's what's cool about it. And like I like to think in a way because of everything related to it, it's like it reminds me of Minecraft in the way that's kind of like you can play all different kinds of ways and do all different kinds of things. I like that RuneScape, I forget what they actually call them, but they have all those like events and stuff and like I'm trying to remember, like there's those like sub games, like what the heck is that one called?
Oh, you mean like Castle Wars or
yeah, like Castle Wars, and also like the one there's like you can be like a collector or defender or an attacker. I forget the name of it, but all these like sub games that are super interesting, and you can play those like forever if you want.
That reminds me of Pest Control was the one I played the most back in the day.
I think it Pest Control. I played Pest Control a bunch too.
Pest Control was like the one where it was kind of like tower defense, where you would go to exactly island and have to defend the portals and like you defend the guy in the center and destroy portals and monsters and stuff.
Yeah, it was like that one, but I forget the name of it. But yeah, those are still super fun, and I occasionally like to jump in and just start playing those.
Pest Control sadly has been dead for years now because no one plays it anymore. But
there must be like there's so many worlds now. There's probably one world that's like a Pest Control world that there's probably like 30 people on or something.
It's funny because my go-to world is 59, which is the U.S. Castle Wars world.
Oh, okay.
And nobody's ever there, and I'm always like, this is sad. Like,
oh, the heyday of Castle Wars was insane.
I never got that fancy armor either. That you
no, I didn't either. I was horrible at Castle Wars. Like, yeah, I was never a good PvP player. I think the only time I ever was like when I was like more of a lower level. So I kind of like built my character in a way where my combat level was super low, but then I had like super high magic or something. That was the only time I ever did okay. So,
do you remember like some of the crazy like scams that people would try to like pull like early in the day?
The armor trimming for sure. I definitely tried to do that myself, I gotta admit. After I got scammed with it, I tried to get somebody on it, and I don't think I ever scammed anybody on it. I'm trying to think of other things. The only other ones I remember is before they changed the trading, where you could just like accept it, or you could like partially accept the trade, and then you could change it at the last second, and the person would be like spamming to accept it, and then you could basically rip them off.
Yep, I remember that. My favorite was if you type your password in, they censor it.
Oh yeah. I did that one too. I gotta say I did that one as well. So, and I think I got somebody on that one too, and I was like, yes. And then I was like, why do I have somebody else's account? I was like, I don't want this. I was like,
yeah, you realize real quick, you're like, I don't know what my goal here was.
Yeah, it was like a level 3, and I was like, wow, now I just feel like a horrible person. It's like, what was the point of that?
That was my favorite thing about doing that is like you only ever got the noobs that would like just like start playing, and you're always like, well, this is stupid. Like, what am I
Yeah,
gonna do
because when
now?
you use a tactic like that, like what do you expect? Do you expect to get like the #1 player? Like,
Yeah, Zizima's just gonna walk over and give
yeah.
you his password.
I thought I heard like a few years ago that he had his account hacked and like lost everything.
Maybe
That's kind of sad.
he still plays apparently. Like
Yeah, he's still active, I think. Yeah.
you'll see him pop. So I added him to my friends list just for shits and giggles, just to see what would happen. And you'll see him pop up as logged in, and he'll usually almost immediately log out just because he probably is getting swarmed by a bunch of players whenever he shows up anywhere.
I was thinking too, no, I guess it doesn't make sense anymore because sometimes I would log on just to like message my friends, but obviously I guess that's not really relevant anymore. There's so many ways to message people. Hopefully the only contact you have for somebody is in RuneScape.
I did have some RuneScape friends back in the day that
Yeah,
I
me
never
too,
met
for sure.
outside of RuneScape.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first discovery of the makeover mage?
I don't know.
That was the mage that could change like your character's gender, like and all the crazy stuff with that.
Did you do something crazy? I don't think
Oh,
I ever really used it.
So I did the recruitment drive quest that required you to do that for a thing, and after you got like a waiver, I think they've changed it how it works now because like you can just change all that stuff for free now. But I did it for the quest, and I was kind of bored, so I was like, I'm gonna see if I get this, like if the meme is actually true. So I just kind of stood around in the female avatar in I think it was like Valdor, and I was just like, I wonder if anyone will try. And like, sure enough, like 5 minutes in, like someone's like, "You be RuneScape girlfriend," and I'm just like, "Sure, give me money."
I have to say that I had one at one point, and it wasn't like that long ago. I feel like it was like 2015 or something, and somebody was just like, we were wood cutting, and she was like, "Do you want to be my RuneScape boyfriend?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And then I never talked to that person ever again.
So you
So
didn't give her any free stuff. So she
no,
was like,
I
"Oh, this-"
didn't. No. So
They literally like they'll give you free stuff sometimes, and I'm always like, damn, this meme is true. And now I feel like a jerk.
it's like a sugar daddy relationship thing. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty funny. Yeah, I don't know if people really do it for the meme though. Like I think they're just trying to be funny with it, but who knows?
Who knows nowadays? Like, because
Yeah.
nowadays everyone's aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always a fun one. I still remember like my first reaction to the transition to RuneScape 3 was I completely didn't even follow it back in the day. Like I was just playing like normal. And I remember the announcement kind of came up and I was like, oh, that's cool, whatever. And then it happened overnight, and then I log in and Lumbridge just is like blown up, and I'm like, what happened here?
Yeah.
I was like,
I mean,
then like they got really weird with like the story stuff after that point. Like the gods were like running around now, and you could run into like Seratom just in quests.
yeah, that was what I think weirded me out about the first part about RuneScape 3, because I remember being so hyped on it because I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. Because at that point, I'd probably already been playing the game for like 5 years or something, right? And I was like, yes, the graphics. People are going to take this game seriously. Because I remember always thinking that like all my friends were playing like WoW and stuff and being like, the graphics in that game is so garbage. And I was like, yeah, but it's fun. And then the graphics came out and it's like, yeah, it's a little bit better, but it's still like really not that good.
I remember before RuneScape 3 came out, they had RuneScape HD briefly, where they just prettied everything up slightly.
We just like made it shinier or something.
There was more textures. That was really about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. So you had mentioned earlier like new skills.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts on some of the new added skills they've added over the last few years?
I don't know. My time frame is all messed up too because I don't, play regularly. But so I'll say probably starting like 2015 or so, when I started playing again, I really play as like a means of like kind of skilling while I'm like watching a YouTube video or skilling while I'm playing another game on the other screen or like something like that. So the skills that really appeal to me now are ones that are kind of more like AFK or just like clicking. So I really like divination actually because it's an easy one to level and it's just, just pretty straightforward. I remember when like Hunter came out, that was like the new skill when early on when I
Year-
started playing, and I could
years
never get
back.
into Hunter.
Hunter is so hard to figure out, but once you figure it
Yeah.
out, it's pretty easy. It's just like the setup and then just like waiting around.
Yeah,
Not
it's
really-
just like I said, it's not my style of like pretty AFK skills. It's like very annoying. Oh, I will say when Dungeoneering came out, I didn't play it for a while. I think I didn't play for a few years. I really enjoy Dungeoneering. I think that's one of the better skills.
I like
Just
dungeoneering. I just
yeah.
don't get how it's a skill.
It shouldn't be, but also like I never like maxed my character out or anything, but when around that time when Dungeoneering came out, most of my skills were pretty high. So it was actually kind of nice because like that helps you in Dungeoneering. But the tokens to get all the cool items, because they have really good rewards for Dungeoneering that make your life so much easier, like herb pouches and like all this stuff that makes you be able to like hold more inventory and stuff like that. So Dungeoneering is definitely really cool. And that's kind of another like sub game in itself, right?
Yeah, honestly, it's more of a mini game than a skill. That's always been
Right,
like the
exactly.
big heated debate with
Yeah,
it.
for sure. But I like mini games, so for me, I'm good
True.
with it.
My favorite they added was archaeology.
I don't know if I ever really did archaeology. That might be the one that I've done the least of.
So the thing about archaeology that makes it so hard to get into, it's kind of like necromancy, is that
Mhm.
you have to do like 3 quests just to really get
Yeah.
into it. And it's such a draining, like slow start that you just like never do it. But once you get past that and you can actually do the skill itself, it's like super fun because you go down in like the ruins of like Gelinor and you just dig around in the dirt and you just like make like items and stuff. It's cool.
Was that one after Invention or before
It was
Invention?
right before Invention.
Okay, I think that was another gap that I had because going into Invention, I heard about Invention and there were all those stat requirements. So I played a ton to grind for Invention, and then I like didn't really even care for it. Invention's another like kind of weird one. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is, but
What I've read about Invention, like I 99'd it, but I did it like the wrong way. Apparently, I kind of just messed around with it until I got there. Invention, I guess, like if you know what you're doing, you can like break the game in half with some of the stuff you can make. Like you can make skilling trivial and stuff. Like it's another skill though that there's just so much setup that I just don't have time for that.
yeah. I guess the last one I'll comment on too was like summoning. Another one that came out like fairly quickly after I had started playing, but summoning is cool and I like the idea behind it, having the familiars and everything. That one was just expensive. No, actually not expensive because you couldn't buy at the time. You had to get the little charms from drops, so you just had to like fight a million enemies to even get enough anything to do to level the skill. So that was frustrating. I hate ones that are like have really big like obstacles in front of you, that there's some way, like it's not just like money, because most of the skills are just like you put money into it and you can level it pretty easily, but those other ones are
that was the old construction method.
yeah. I liked construction though. I had a lot of fun with construction. It was really expensive, but I had a really fun time like making my house and stuff. So
See, nowadays it's like I'm like so mad because like you spent so much money back in the day on like planks and stuff, and now you can make the damn things, and it's like this sucks so much.
Yeah, I remember just like getting the stupid servant, and the servant would go like take your money and take the logs and go make the planks and bring them back to you, and you just kept doing that over and over again.
You know what was always fun to me? Like you needed a second bed for the servant so he'd stay in your house. I forgot about this years ago, and I was redoing my house, and I was like, why the hell do I have a second bedroom? This is dumb. And I just got rid of it. And he just straight up just like F's off and just walks away. And I'm like, wait, come back.
Yeah, that's a good one though. That's one I'd like to revisit too. Because even like from a meta game standpoint, if you just want to like build a house, like you're like Alex in The Sims or something, you just want to build a cool house, like you can do that. And now I'm probably high enough levels and everything else that I actually could afford to do that and just have fun with it. So,
well, especially because training construction is so easy now, thanks to the Fortnery or whatever it's called, which is basically a mini game in itself too. Where it's basically they just revamped construction. Basically, they demolished the wood cutting lumberyard in favor of this like giant fort, which I'm actually thinking in hindsight, there's actually some quests that require the lumber yards. I'm not sure how that's going to work in
Mhm.
hindsight, but yeah, I remember that though. It's cool because you could build this giant fort and it has like basically everything you need to skill in there. It's cool. Like
Oh,
it's
that's cool. You see, I haven't done that. That's the thing. So the hardest thing about playing RuneScape and then stepping away from it is there's so much to relearn and so much to learn that's completely new. So usually it'll be like I'll rely on maybe one friend that I have that's been into it for a long time and be like, I don't know what to do here or whatever. Because sometimes Google, I mean, Google can be your friend with like resources, like the wiki is awesome, but there are like certain little things that you wouldn't pick up on, like, oh, how do I make money fast, or how do I do this or that? And so it's always a huge learning curve.
yeah, like the big one for me has been necromancy. Like this skill just doesn't appeal to me at all. So I'm like struggling to get through it because it's just another combat skill. I'm like, I don't need
Yeah.
another combat skill.
I mean, I guess I was happy in a way that there was another one because it's kind of been a little while. And but yeah, I think I'm still doing the quest. Like I just played it like a few times. No, I maxed it out for free to play. It's members, right?
Yes, I think free to
Until
play can like do like you can do some basic stuff. It's still under an embargo right now, so you can't even like lamp it if you like you just want to get easy stuff right now.
oh, okay. Yeah, I think like you can get up to level 20 or something, I feel like, and that's what I did. And then it was like, oh, you're not a member. And I was like, okay, I'll come back to this eventually. I just don't feel like doing it right now. So,
Yeah.
but
So did you ever have just run into some really like just bizarre, hilarious interactions? Like not even the stuff that you were involved in, just
um,
stuff that you kind of saw in the background and you just kind of were like the fly on the wall.
so going way back when I first started playing with my friends, we would like go to the wilderness and stuff, and there were some pretty crazy things going on there. Just like I don't know, I remember being in like the middle of a war in the wilderness, and there would just be people doing weird stuff, and then there'd be like a third party, like it'd be like two sides fighting, and then like a third party would come over and just demolish everybody, and then there'd be people like teleporting out, and it's just like I think that like that's always like some crazy stuff. Like there's not any specific stories there, but I guess one story I have is doing like Dragon Slayer back in the day. This is more like a personal story, not just like a crazy thing that happened, but going to do Dragon Slayer, preparing everything, and I think one time I did it and I like chickened out and I teleported out, and then I went another time and I just like forgot my Dragon Fire shield and died in like 2 seconds. And I was like, and then I lost all my good items. And I was just like,
Yeah,
darn.
Dragon Slayer was rough back in the day.
Yeah, it was rough. I'm trying to think. Okay, other interesting stories. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to think. If you have anything interesting, start and we'll see if I can think of any other ones. But
So I'm pretty sure I witnessed a marriage fall apart at one
oh
point.
god,
Like there was an argument going on, like they were just letting the world know. I don't know if this was staged or not. It probably was staged, but there was just an argument going on between two players going back and forth. And I'm just like sitting there going like, I'm like, guys, is RuneScape really the place for this to go on? And they both like legit like blew up, like completely just ended everything. And then they just walked off into the distance. And I'm like, I'm sitting there just thinking like, did that really happen or were they filming a skit? Like,
I think it would have been funnier if the one person logged off. So then you're like, oh no, like what happened? Did they throw the other computer on the floor or something? Or
yeah,
yeah,
there was that one was funny. I remember this one guy was like having like the worst day ever, and he was just like unloading everything into like the mining area, but we were all mining coal or something. And I'm like, bro, are you okay? And he's like just going on and on, and I'm just like, I think this guy seriously needs help. Like, I was very concerned for him there, but at the same time, you're always like, I don't know if this is real or not because internet.
yeah. I did remember one thing. Well, two things. I think there was something similar kind of happened to me once where I had somebody just like griefing me. They would just follow me around because I always forget that that's like a mechanic. You can just like follow somebody
Oh
around.
yeah, taxiing. That was a
Right.
thing.
And like before, like construction and other ways to kind of like teleport out of areas, if you didn't have anything, like people could just follow you forever. And somebody just like started following me and he was like threatening me. And remember back in the day, like even though stuff gets censored out, they would always find ways of like saying things without like triggering the sensor. So like somebody was like, I'm gonna come to your house and I'm gonna do this and that. And I was just like, whoa, this is like so serious. So that was a little bit weird and frightening as a teenager, but
I'm pretty sure a player got sent to jail for like years for that, like way back in the day.
yeah, probably if you got like reported by enough people, and then or if it got like really serious, like something happened to one of the people. Another interesting story, I guess this is also on my side, but there was a time where I just got like super into role playing. So I like joined like a role play server, and I took it so seriously that even the people in the role playing server were like, dude, you gotta chill out. Like I don't even remember what I was doing, but I was just like typing all kinds of stuff, and I was like trying to use like old timey English and stuff, and I was just going super hard. So I was probably somebody else's story. Somebody was like, man.
My favorite was so you remember how there was always those really empty worlds, like even back in the day when it was like super popular, you'd occasionally have like the world like maybe like 100 people in it.
Yeah,
I loved going on those back in the day because like that's where you'd find like all the weird the weird stuff going on.
Yeah, the back.
I remember I stumbled upon a group doing a YouTube video.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
They were like filming a skit or something, like, and they were like acting it out. And I remember because I'm like being a troll at the time. I was like, I'm gonna fuck this up. So I literally got right in the back of the shot and just stood there the whole time. And I was just like, stay up long until they notice. And eventually they were like, holy shit, that guy's been in the back the whole time. And I'm just like, see ya. And I just ran off.
Nice. I feel like that was in the time of like machinima. Do you remember like machinima?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. I feel like I must have experienced something like that too, of people coordinating and then getting mad at me because I walked in their space in a publicly available video game. You know what I mean? It's just like
the best ones were the ones that didn't even acknowledge you and they just keep going because they're the smart ones who know if you actually acknowledge the troll, he's just going to be even more obnoxious. So if they just ignore you, eventually you'll get bored and go away. But I remember I would just stand precisely in like shots, so I wouldn't be ruining it, but I'd be just enough that it would be annoying. And I always remembered, like, I wonder if I can find this on YouTube later. I never did, so they probably edited me out, if anything. But
yeah, that would actually be really funny. I was thinking about that too when you mentioned it. I was like, oh, that would be so cool if you could find it. But there'd be no way. And YouTube back then was so different too. You know, they probably didn't even title it in a way that makes any sense.
Because it was so hard to like do RuneScape content for YouTube back in the day because YouTube gaming just wasn't really like as accessible at the time. Like you needed a partnership with Machinima or whatever other partnership platforms there were back in the day.
Yeah, I don't even know how you would like capture the footage. That's the thing. It was way before you could do that kind of stuff. So
I always remember like the unregistered hypercam too in like the corner of the video. That was always fun.
I kind of actually feel like it might have just been like, I remember doing a YouTube video for Halo 3 where I just took my flip phone and just recorded the TV, like a replay. That was probably what it was.
That was the classic way of doing it back when there was no capture cards.
I think I still have like, actually it was a different YouTube channel. It's not the YouTube channel I still use, I don't think, but I still have those videos uploaded while I was like just recording my Xbox on Halo. So
I think I have a GameCube review. that's
crazy.
A Sega Saturn review where I just filmed myself playing Daytona USA and crashing into the wall because I was playing one-handed.
Classic.
Those were the days. I might have privated those. I don't know. I privated most of the stuff on my YouTube channel pre 2013. So
I like that you can do that though. I think it's cool. You can still keep them kind of there for archives. Just don't show them to anybody because it's embarrassing. I have a lot of stuff like that on my channel. So
yeah, it's always just one of those things where like you're always sitting there thinking like, you didn't do anything bad, but you're always like, I don't know if I did something that's unintentionally cancelable, so I'm just gonna get rid of it.
Mine's just unintentionally embarrassing, so I don't want to expose anybody to that unnecessarily.
Yeah, it's all stuff like that because it's like you just never know because the internet changes on a day on the basis every day.
Yeah.
RuneScape though was like, it's funny how it's really like stood the test of time though. Like people, it's obviously nowhere near as big as it used to be. Like especially considering there's two versions of it now, and one is significantly more popular than the other. But it's cool to see that it's still been going, honestly. You know what I find really weird, though?
What?
Old school RuneScape is basically its own game now,
Yeah.
and it gets its own, like,
Gives
new
us some
content.
updates. Yeah, exactly. But what's weird to me is so the old school people would always be like, we like the way it was in 2005 or whatever, and that was the idea behind RuneScape Classic, right? Or old school
Old school
RuneScape.
RuneScape.
But yeah, over time, it's just slowly becoming RuneScape 3, which I think is really funny. They're keeping like I said, like the legacy combat and all that, but there's new skills and stuff. So it's really funny that it's like I guess over time, you got to add new content or else it's going to get stale. So they figure that the best way to do it is just to like reuse the RuneScape 3 stuff. But yeah.
Did you participate in the Golden Party Hat event?
I don't think so.
So this was a few years ago. I remember it was like I think it was like 1 year after COVID. So I think it was like 2021, I want to say. They did a whole like anniversary event where you could basically it was a giant skilling challenge where you'd basically just do a whole bunch of skills and stuff, and you would collect 8 golden party hat pieces, and you could make your own golden party hat. Basically just a way to get it. Basically, it was a way for players to get a party hat without paying absurd amounts of money. And I remember because I did it for like the entire span it was active because I really wanted the golden party hat. And it was crazy how like the game was suddenly alive again, like just during this one event, because I remember everybody was playing it.
Did you end up getting it or no?
Yeah, it's currently on my player. I immediately keepsaked that item, so it's just
nice.
I made it I just made it an aesthetic thing.
That's cool.
What was cool was though they made them tradable, so you could technically trade your party hats away again. And of course, they immediately became absurdly expensive, like the rest of them. But
that's pretty cool, though. You just made me think we didn't talk about the holiday items back in the day because that was the thing. That was the ultimate flex. You could be like, I was playing at this time because I have the holiday item and you don't have it.
Running around in the chicken suit was always my favorite thing.
Yeah, the thing I was always sad about is by the time I joined, it was like after the Santa hats. Trying to think what other big ones were already done. The rubber chicken I got, which was one of my favorite items to this day, just smacking people with the rubber chicken for no reason.
I love the bone brooch. You could just turn into a pile of bones and just chill.
I'm not sure if I had that one. I had like a Grim Reaper one. There's all kinds of like really cool ones. They had these Christmas scarves back in the day that were really cool. There's like an orange and black one. That's like my favorite one. It's got like a little beanie and then a scarf. So yeah, those were really fun. That was a good way to flex on people, kind of like the membership thing. You'd be like, oh, I'm a free to play player, but like, do you have these items? And they'd be like, no, I just started playing yesterday. And you're like, exactly.
Yeah. Or another fun one was the Hellcats, because you could get cats and you could make them demonic. And I always remember walking around with a demonic cat, and people were like, "How did you get that?" It's like, "Oh, it's just a quest that you have to do." It's and they're always like, "Which one?" It's like Recipe for Disaster, but you don't explain anything about it. And
yeah, that was me. I was like, "How do you get the cats?"
Yeah, that was actually the first member quest I did was Gertrude's cat because I wanted a cat really bad.
No, that I think it was similar for me because my friend had a cat and I was like, oh, I got to do that. So
now I have a dragon that just follows me around.
Now they have all the little assistant things that you can get them to pick up stuff for you. Like I have the Golem. I think it was like a Twitch Prime thing for a while.
Yeah, it's gotten like really extreme. I love the keepsaking feature though, where you can just keepsake items as a cosmetic overrides. So like I constantly always have like the fancy boots on because that's like the best.
Oh, that's nice.
That was like the original flex was if you had the fancy boots.
I think the only keepsake I have, and the only reason I have is because my friend told me to do it, is my first level 99 cape. Because apparently it's like gold trimmed or something. And then as soon as you get the second 99, it's not or something like that. I forget how it works, but
other way around. It's the first one. The first one is not trimmed, and then all the later ones are. It's mostly a gloating thing because I think like one of the hardest ones to get untrimmed is like Slayer because it's a combat skill.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's kind of cool to think about. Yeah, people think of all this wacky stuff. Like, wouldn't it be sweet if I got my Slayer to 99 before all my? Yeah, I don't know. It's cool.
What was your first net level 99?
I think it was mining actually, and I only got it in like 2019. I think I only have two. I think I have fire making and mining right now.
Fire making was my first 99 because I remember back in the day, fire making sucked because you had to. You remember the fire trails, right?
Yeah, fire making. Some of the skills have come such a long way. Fire making is definitely one of them.
I just remember the endless trails of fire that you just have to make everywhere just to fire make, and it would slow the game down so much because they were trying to process all these fires. Nowadays, you can just do bonfires, which completely changes the meta of that skill. Another crazy one was woodcutting is like so different now because now like you can just like infinitely stack shit. Well, no, you can cut the wood and then immediately burn it all and just keep like stay at one tree. Like crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, it's so different. But some of those early skills were like fire making. It was like there was nothing you could do. Now they've really built it out in cool ways. So like a lot of those skills are actually pretty interesting now. But back in the day, there was really not much you could do. I remember like fletching was kind of boring too. Like back in the day, you couldn't really do very much with it.
And then now it's like if you're into archery, it's just like it's essential because you need to make your bolts now and arrows.
Yeah.
Do you remember fishing on the not the Lumbridge, the Karamja dock?
Of course.
That was I always remember the stories and just stuff that would happen there. I remember we were fishing there and one guy dropped he had like a noted like 99 like it was like 99k lobsters just noted. And he was because he was drop trading to someone else at the dock and that person didn't notice. And I just kind of was like, "Ooh, what's this?" And I was just like, "Oh, I don't think I was supposed to pick this up." And the guy got so mad and I just ran away.
Yeah, those are good times. Actually, that reminded me of a thing. Did you ever do before like drop parties, like the balloon drop parties were like a legitimate thing? They used to do them in like the Varrock Bank on the top level. Did you ever go to any of those?
I went to one and like literally like I think it was like a troll event because literally everyone dropped like burnt ashes and burnt meat. And I was like, oh, this isn't fun. Like this is just dumb. Yeah, that was classic. They've changed the rules so you can't really do stuff like that anymore.
You can't really do it anymore, but it was fun.
Do you remember when they got rid of the wilderness and there was like the riot going on?
I don't know. I'm not sure if that was a time I was really playing, but
so when they first got rid of the wilderness, there was actually a riot that happened in one of the worlds where like a bunch of players just like went to this one location. I think it was Varrock Center, and they just started spamming all these like messages and stuff. And I actually stumbled through it. Like I remember because I see the pictures of it all the time. I'm always looking for my character in there, but I can't find him in any of them.
Oh man.
Because it was so bad that it actually like my computer just crashed because it couldn't handle all the things. So I was like, that's my memory of the riot because I remember I stumbled into it and I was like, what is happening? And then my computer just died. And I was like, oh, that's not good.
You're making me think now too. I want to look on YouTube to see like RuneScape would be like, because RuneScape history, like looking at a video about RuneScape history about stuff like that would be so interesting because that kind of stuff, if there's never any like documentation of it, it's just like literally you and me talking, right? Like there's no way just getting like 100 RuneScape players who've been playing for 10 plus years and just trying to like lay out like a map of like different things that had happened. That would be super cool.
Oh yeah. Like I have I found it recently when I was going through a bunch of my old stuff. I have the official RuneScape guide from Scholastics that you could get at like the school book fairs. And it was hilarious looking through that thing because it is so out of date in like every way imaginable. I think it was out of date when it came out, to be honest, because like it uses all like the original RS2 art. There's like random members, like characters in all the screenshots they took, which is just great because it's like, oh, here's these things you can't get advertised.
Yeah. I think also like probably by the time the book was published, it would have been like a year later. You know what I mean? So the game would have been so changed. Did it tell you how to like make gold in it, or is the I remember all those like scammy books and stuff that people would try to sell to be like how to make 1,000,000 gold in RuneScape.
So it didn't give you any like real like strategies to make money. It gave you like little hints and tips and stuff. Like it was explaining like how like you would like sell things in like the stores.
Oh, okay.
You remember selling stuff to the general store
Of course.
before we had the wonders of the Grand Exchange.
Yeah, you take like 5 gold and then you're good. You're like, yeah, sure, I'll take 5 gold for that. That sounds pretty good.
Well, it's like when I found like 100 scimitars like noted on the ground once, and I was like, what do I do with them? Sell them to the store, and it's like you got 1,000 coins. It's like I didn't have
Cool.
1,000 coins before.
Yeah, you took what you can get.
Yeah, I always remember. So, do you remember Rune HQ like before like the wiki was really a thing?
Yeah, I think so. I used to use it pretty frequently, I think.
That was like where I got all my quest guides and stuff because I was always like, oh, this is sweet. Now I don't need to even try anymore to figure out the quests.
Well, have you seen all the plugins and stuff they have now? At least on old school RuneScape. I think they have them on RuneScape 3 too.
Yeah, it's like I know JJX is not happy with those, but it's kind of like you see and you're like, this is impressive, but it's like I don't know if I'd be able to actually do it though.
I just played around with it. I mean, it literally shows you like where to go and what items to have and all that. And I'm like, to be honest, especially if you want to get through a lot of quests, it's nice. But yeah, I can see why they wouldn't want you to do it. But for me, it's like the quests are so specific compared to a lot of other like MMOs that it's really hard sometimes. And if you miss like one item, you're gonna get screwed because you're gonna die instantly or something.
Yep. Do you remember the Black Knight's Fortress quest? It doesn't even exist anymore. This is how old this quest is.
Oh, they got rid of it?
Yeah, it's been replaced with. They like replaced a bunch of free quests and made them like. They made them more in line with like the RuneScape 3 style.
Okay.
But I remember Black Knight's Fortress. Like one of my favorite like fuck up moments that you'd always have was that was the one where you had to throw the cabbage in the pot to win the quest. And I always remember I ate the cabbage right before I threw it in.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure I did that too because that was the classic. Just click on it and then you're like, oh shoot.
Yep. You were always like, damn it. And then you had to go all the way back to get another one because you needed like a very. No, you didn't want to use the specific Draenor cabbage, which was the superior cabbage. I don't.
There was one too where it was like a beer one. You get like beers from the gnomes or something, and it was a very specific type of beer. And yeah, then if you accidentally would click on it and drink it, and you're like, I definitely did that like 5 times before I got it right.
I always remember too, like back in like the early day, you'd see like the people walking around with like Silverlight or
yeah, that's so cool.
Or the Blurite sword.
No, I love the Blurite sword. I like that later you could get it like mounted and you can put it in your house. Like that stuff is so cool.
I have Darklight in my house because I loved Darklight because it was black and like just like edgy looking sword.
Yeah.
I remember like the Blurite sword, like I worked so hard to get that thing and then I used it. I'm like, this thing sucks.
No,
like,
it's awful. Yeah.
You can override it now though and make it your weapon over like something good. So that's cool, I guess.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's the best part about overrides. Like you could just like chicken suit all the time.
Yeah, and like people like that kind of stuff. I think they learned in other games that that's like a big thing. People just want their character to look cool, but also be good.
Some of the overrides though, now that they have that you can buy, because you can buy all sorts of weird shit now. I've seen some of them, and I saw this guy run by with a shark head, and I was just like, what game am I even playing anymore?
Yeah, it reminds me too of like the emotes. Remember how like specific emotes were with like the random events to get certain emotes and stuff, and then they just started like all being like buying them. So
yeah, I remember Zombie Dance because like it was the Thriller dance, and you just type in Thriller as you were doing it. Yeah, that was fun. I remember like Stronghold of Security is still like one of my favorite side quests because it was an entire dungeon based around player safety.
I think that was when they really started to turn some stuff around and really like do some good things for the game too. That really helped.
I always laugh though because like one of my friends back in the day, he got hacked because like he fell for one of those like scam emails that like was like, your account has problems. We need you to send your password here to
Oh man.
get it confirmed. And he was all like, he was convinced it was because we made a YouTube video and that's how his account got hacked. And I was like, no, it's because you gave your password on it to an
Wow.
email. And he's like, well, how is that? Like, how would that be bad? I'm like, didn't you do the stronghold of security? Like, they
No, I
told
didn't
you,
read
right?
it though. I just thought it was a quest and I can't read.
Yeah, I just guessed my way through it.
Yeah.
That was always a fun one. I
That was a
remember
good one.
I took Alex through there and I was expecting her to struggle because she was so underleveled. But the monsters like don't even attack you down there anymore. I was like, well, this is lame.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like a ton of stuff. Like RuneScape is such a nostalgic thing to talk about just because it's like I'm sure WoW players or like Maple Story players or EverQuest players all have the same like feelings where they're just kind of like that. This was our MMO back in the day, and we just enjoy talking about it with other players. But even though most people just probably don't remember the same stories.
Yeah. I heard it's also the same for like Final Fantasy 11 or yeah, that was the first online one, right? 11. Yeah.
I think I know people that had like massive like online addictions with Final Fantasy 11.
I wish I played it back in the day. I couldn't I didn't have money to buy the game or to pay for the membership, so I never played it, but I wish I had at the time. But
I've been tempted to play 14, but I look at it and I'm just like, I can't justify that much time to an MMO
no,
again.
I'm already so deep in RuneScape that I can justify it, but another one I don't think I ever will. So
That's like the reason why I won't play old school RuneScape is just because I just don't want to start over.
yeah, that's true.
Because it's like I've been with my character since 2006. I don't want to start again.
I spent some time on it, and it's if you want to feel the nostalgia, like it's worth at least doing. You don't have to commit to it long term, but playing it for a few hours is fun to bring back those memories. So
yeah, that's true. So we said we only want to do about an hour, so we're kind of around there now. Any final thoughts you want to give before we wrap this up?
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention is just I thought it was cool too over the years how they've been putting out those other kinds of modes. Like that one mode where as soon as you walk out of Lumbridge, it's PvP, like the entire thing. And then they have like Iron Man mode, which is I give people mad respect for that because that seems like impossible. So
Yeah,
I think I give them a lot of credit for like trying to keep up with the times, making things interesting. You know, I'm not a fan of a lot of them, but I like that they're like it's still going. So
do you remember Darkscape, like when it was like the very short-lived mode?
that wasn't the PvP one. What was Darkscape?
Darkscape was the one where it was basically like Fire Emblem, where like once you die, you're done.
Yeah, no, that's the one I'm talking about. I think it was just like you got killed and you were dead. No, I think that's Iron Man mode actually too now though.
So Iron Man, you can get your stuff. Well, you can like still play after.
Oh really?
I know Darkscape was straight up like once you were gone, the account was deleted, like just gone.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's I give people props for that, but yeah, that's not for me. So
I think they restructured it into Iron Man or like
I think it's hardcore Iron Man.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Hardcore Iron Man, I think you lose your account is just done when you die. Yeah.
That's I think what they transferred it over to because I remember it used to be a separate site like Darkscape and it was like
but yeah, Darkscape is a cooler name too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was always that was something fun that I remember trying it. I'm like, oh, this is just hard mode, and once you're done, you're done.
It's like ultra hard mode. It's not even hard mode. It's like
imagine paying, and you had to pay for it too. That was like the more ridiculous thing.
Yeah, pay for the membership and then just lose the account or whatever too.
Yeah,
no things.
See, it would have been cool if they were like, okay, if you play this mode, you get the entire game for free, but the second you die, you're done.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think that would be worth the risk. Yeah. But then they would lose a lot of money because people are just doing that.
that's probably why they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, RuneScape talk is just fun. Like I love reminiscing on this game. So before we wrap this up, do you want to plug any of your stuff?
Sure. I'll say my YouTube channel, Shnickerman, SHNICKERMAN, which I'm reading it off, my profile here. I make videos about a lot of different stuff, and I also have been doing a lot more like vlogs, which I'm kind of calling my podcast now. I used to have a podcast called Gaming with Passion, where I talked to people for a long time, and then it ended up just being a lot of work. I'm kind of going to bring it back, but right now I do like 10 to 15-minute weekly updates on what I'm playing, maybe some gaming topics and what's new with my life. So that's me. And yeah, I appreciate Bill having me on as always. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I hope that you guys continue to do well into the future.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for coming on again. It's always great to have you on. And with that, guys, once again, thanks for joining us on the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. The Gaming and Collecting Podcast can be found on all your major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. You can find all of our links at linktree/thebarbecue games. And if you'd like, you can join the GNC Podcast Network Discord server, where we share all sorts of stuff about the Gaming and Collecting Podcast, the 3DO experience, and everything else in between. We got a Kermit the Frog obsession lately that's become a meme at this point. And with that, guys, we will see you all next time.
Peace.